new show, Tiki Your Ears Off. I first got the idea for this several years ago when my Music for a Dark Tiki Bar episodes of A Moment of Tiki received such a positive reception. So the concept behind this is that I am going to take a little bit of time, not a whole lot, not as long as a full episode of A Moment of Tiki, but a little bit more time to go in depth into individual albums that I think people who like Tiki would really enjoy incorporating into their Tiki space to set the ambiance, the mood, all that kind of cool stuff. Some of these will be classic Exotica albums, some of them will be modern surf, kind of the whole gambit. Any of the various genres that I discussed in the various Music for a Dark Tiki Bar episodes is fair game right here. So that is my concept, and I'm hoping you will find it enjoyable as well. After extensive consideration, I realized that there was only one album that I could start with, the album that I consider the absolute best, the pinnacle of the Exotica's subgenre, and that is Voodoo, the 1959 album by Robert Drasnin. Now, I know a lot of you out there are saying, wait a minute, not Les Baxter, not Martin Denny, not Arthur Lyman. No, and I will justify my selection right here. But first, many of you are wondering, who's Robert Drasnin? Okay, Robert Drasnin was a longtime composer for the film and television industry. He scored incidental music for such well-known shows as The Twilight Zone, Chips, Wild Wild West, Hawaii Five-0, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, and many, many more. For the most part, he didn't write the theme songs to it, but all the music that you heard throughout the episode is what he worked on. He served as director of music for CBS television from 1977 through 1991, overseeing all of the productions there. So, you know, that clues you in that this man really knew his stuff. In 1959, at the beginning of his career, he was working for Tops Records, a low-budget recording company, when he was offered the chance to record an Exotica album to cash in on the frenzy set off by the success of Martin Denny's cover of Les Baxter's song Quiet Village. Okay, remember, Martin Denny had released Quiet Village in 1957. It took several years for it to catch on, but when it did, suddenly it blew up everywhere, and everyone was trying to cash in on this sudden new musical genre. Drasnin jumped at the chance to compose and produce his own material. Because this was a low-budget recording company, there was very little oversight. Drasnin got free rein to do whatever he wanted, his own instrumentation, his own arrangement, as long as he stayed in budget. The entire record was recorded in 8 to 12 hours over the course of 2 days in recording. The pianist performing on the first day recording sessions was this fellow by the name of John Williams. You may have heard of him. He went on to record some themes that you may have heard of. You know, ear-catching little ditties there for him. So he went on to bigger and better things. The result of these two recording sessions was Voodoo, an album which I consider as having one of the most amazing album cover art designs of any Exotica album. Okay, also, alas, Tops, being low budget, didn't support the album with a marketing campaign, and it kind of sank and vanished without making much of a ripple at the time that it was released, which is a shame, but you know, again, they were trying to cash in on a trend, not trying to create art or a lasting piece or whatever. They were in for the quick buck. Even though Voodoo sold poorly, Tops did reissue it in 1964 as Percussion Exotique. Again, I suppose they were trying to cash in, or maybe they just finally realized this is some really good music and needed some better exposure. Regardless, even though it wasn't a success when it was first released, Voodoo was always highly sought after among record collectors for its cover. But when the lounge revival came about in the 1990s, suddenly everyone started realizing, hey, this is an amazing record. There is some fantastic music on here, and it became far more widely appreciated for its music. Drasnin had no idea about his newfound popularity until he was contacted about a reissue of Voodoo around 1969. This ultimately led to him composing Voodoo 2 and releasing it in 2007, and the posthumous Voodoo 3 album in 2017. Until Voodoo 2, the original Voodoo album was the only one that Drasnin ever released out under his own name, which is kind of amazing considering how much music he had written, but it was all incidental music. It wasn't like, he wasn't scoring Raiders of the Lost Ark or Ordinary People, where there was the soundtrack album. So, it boggles the mind that a man this prolific would only have one album out under his own name. But there you go. Now let's get into Voodoo and why it is so good. Now, I'm not going to break down track by track by track. I mean, that would be insane, and it would rob you of the joy of discovering. But I've selected 3 tracks that I think are absolute highlights of this magnificent album. And I want to discuss each one in just a little bit and give you a taste of what you can find on the album as a whole. Okay, first off is Chant of the Moon. So let's take a listen. Okay, isn't that fantastic? You have the opening percussion. It is just tribal, primitive, it's slowly building. It's not urgent, but there's this intensity to it. It draws you in. There's a slow build, and then suddenly, boom, it hits you with vocalist Sally Terry's vocals. It's just fantastic. It's the perfect opening of the perfect Exotica song on the perfect Exotica album. But that's not all. I mean, Drasnin has more up his sleeve, okay? Let's listen to the next segment right here, okay? Okay, you hear that? I mean, 1 minute into this song, Drasnin adds marimba, not vibes. Vibes were the go-to percussion instrument for all of these Exotica with their dreamy, ethereal bell-like tones, but he goes with marimba instead, which is a more organic sound. It's deeper. It's just a different approach that melds in with the overall mood that he's setting in this opening song perfectly. It adds to the layered complexity, and if Chant of the Moon, for my money, was the only Exotica Drasnin had ever written, that would still be a noteworthy accomplishment, okay? So we're going to leave Chant of the Moon behind, as much as I love it, and move over into Mirage. So let's take a quick listen. Okay, isn't that a great contrast from Chant of the Moon? Mirage has a really snappy melody, a catchy rhythm, lots of great energetic percussion going on here. I often find flutes in Exotica annoying as hell, as they can be intrusive and distracting from the rest of the arrangement, like look at me, look at me, look at me. But the flutes Drasnin uses here, they're well integrated, they're subtle, they add rather than distract. This is just a fun track. It's just a fun track. Now the last track I want to share with you today is Orinoco. So let's take a quick listen. Right, this is clearly another standout track in an album full of standout tracks. It's got an up-tempo melody, and then when Terry's ethereal vocal coming and swelling and fading throughout the first minute, and then it comes back and returns in the final minute, it just really works really well to, I hate using really, but I'm at a loss for descriptions here. The timpani drum. The timpani drum, I can never not smile whenever I hear the boom of the timpani drum. It's such an energetic, joyful sound. It always makes me smile. The melody climbs throughout the song and gets lighter, more playful. John Williams again is back. His playful piano shines midway through. He gets, center focus, center stage here, and he makes the most of it. Then there's harp cascades. I mean, who uses harps in Exotica? Robert Drasnin does, and the harps lend a dreamy mood to the entire atmosphere. And this shows Drasnin coming from his film composer, television composer background, because harps are commonly used instruments in the studio sessions for production companies for movie and theater, and he excels at using instruments that are not typically associated with the Exotica genre. He just thinks outside the box because he comes from outside the box. He's not a performer of a small combo like Martin Denny or Arthur Lyman or even Gene Raines. He is a composer much more in the vein of Les Baxter. And that is why I say Voodoo differs significantly from the other great Exotica albums that were released in the era, in that it feels of one piece, rather than a collection of Les Baxter covers mixed in with some exotified standards. All of these compositions on Voodoo are original and reference each other musically throughout all the different instrumentations and the arrangements. They sound like they belong together as a coherent whole, each track informing the next, and the next track referencing those from the past. You hear any song, any track off of Voodoo, and it sounds like it belongs next to the one that came before it, or even the ones at the end. They all are of one piece, even though each one is unique and has its own identity. That is a remarkable accomplishment for the era. Tops Records wanted a quick knockoff to capitalize on a fleeting fad, but Drasnin never got the memo. Instead, he created a musical suite that is more comparable to a lot of what Les Baxter did earlier in his career with Music from the Moon and Perfume Set to Music and all of those. The Exotica Big Three are Les Baxter, Martin Denny, and Arthur Lyman. Drasnin isn't mentioned in this context because he only made the one record in Exotica's heyday. That's not a reflection on his talent. It's clear from listening to Voodoo that Drasnin was a towering talent that directed his efforts a different direction. I'm convinced that had he put out more albums in the Exotica genre, perhaps on Liberty, where he would have gotten more support, more promotion, better distribution, more airplay, he would be automatically considered one of the greats. He has a great reputation now that was bolstered with the release of Voodoo 2 and Voodoo 3, but still in the early days of Exotica, in the Tiki revival, he was often an afterthought. Not saying that he's forgotten now. He is getting his due. The fact that he was able to perform at Hukilau and Tiki Oasis, he became beloved among the Tiki revival. And I think that is well deserved. And the album is definitely one that should be in the collection of any Tiki file played in any Tiki bar. I will include links down below for the reissue, but if you can find that album with that magnificent cover on it, then absolutely it's worth framing and displaying proudly in your Tiki bar, along with the music that he produced by it. So, thank you for indulging me in this experiment. I hope to be back soon with more music to recommend to you and explore and discuss together. If you know of any obscure or interesting Tiki-themed music that you think I should look into and maybe feature on the show, give me a shout. Add it to the comments down below. Until then, Tiki your ears off.